From The Australian, here's what's on the front. I'm Claire Harvey. It's Wednesday, November 13. There's been a $5 billion hike in public sector wages for Commonwealth public servants. The Australian's revealing today there are 26,000 new public servants in Canberra. The hardhead, the hawks, the ice maiden, the interrogator, and the anti-vaxxer. Today on The Front, we meet Team Trump's starting lineup and find out how they'll start reshaping the world. One of the things Donald Trump is most famous for is firing people.
I was wondering what you would say to President Obama.
You're fired.
His first term set new turnover records. And some high-ranking White House staff set records of their own for the shortest ever terms in office. Trump sacked 4 chiefs of staff, a Secretary of Veterans Affairs, the Inspector General of the Intelligence Community, and many more. Now, as President-elect, Donald Trump has to find a new team, and the names are coming in fast. Florida Senator Marco Rubio will be Secretary of State, the first person of Latino extraction in the job. Rubio previously ran for the Republican nomination in 2016 against Trump. He called Trump a con artist and
the most vulgar person to ever aspire to the presidency in terms of how he's carried out his candidacy.
New York Congresswoman Elise Stefanik has also had a change of heart about Trump, turning from an establishment Republican moderate to one of Trump's most vocal allies and a powerful advocate for the gun lobby. She'll be Trump's ambassador to the United Nations, and top of her agenda will be Israel.
She's been critical of the way that the United Nations has responded to the Israel question following the October 7, 2023 attack on Israel by Hamas. And she's taken up a sort of attack dog persona.
Joe Kelly is the Australian's National Affairs Editor. He's in Washington, DC.
She's very direct and to the point. I think that's something that has endeared her to Donald Trump. And probably Australians might remember her from those hearings where she was questioning the leaders of some of America's top universities about their policies relating to criticism of Israel.
That's not what you were asked. You were asked, were there any anti-Jewish protests? And you said no.
So the protest was not labeled as an anti-Jewish protest.
I'm not asking what it was labeled.
Anti-Israeli government policy.
The question wasn't what it was labeled.
She is also a staunch Trump political ally. She has stuck with Donald Trump and defended him through 2 impeachment processes. She is only 40 years old and she is a senior Republican. She's the 4th ranking House Republican. She is being rewarded and Donald Trump has great confidence in her and her abilities. Obviously, at the UN, we're living through a period of great global uncertainty where there are conflicts in the Middle East and also in Eastern Europe. So these are the questions that she'll be dealing with, Claire.
I noticed in her statement accepting the job, Joe, she described Donald Trump's policy or philosophy as America first, peace through strength leadership on the world stage. What does that mean?
Good question, Claire. It is the slogan, the line, if you like, that is being repeated by so many people, including by J.D. Vance, peace through strength.
Governor Walz can criticize Donald Trump's tweets, but effective, smart diplomacy and peace through strength is how you bring stability back to a very broken world.
But mostly it is an attempt to remind people, not only Americans, but I think people all around the world, that a lot of these conflicts and disturbances that have happened under Joe Biden's watch. And the people associated with Donald Trump and Donald Trump himself, of course, are making the point that he was president during a period of relative global stability. And so their narrative, their political argument is this was because people didn't want to start things while Donald Trump was in power. So I think this is the political slogan to suggest to people that Donald Trump will be an American strongman, that he will be someone that other world leaders won't want to go around starting things on his watch.
Legal asylees are not charged with any crime.
When you're into the country illegally, it's violation 8 United States Code 1325.
Seeking asylum is legal.
If you want to seek asylum and go through the port of entry, do it the legal way.
This is Tom Homan. So he was a former acting director of the United States' Immigration and Customs Enforcement. He was also a contributor to the Heritage Foundation's 2025 Conservative Blueprint, where he contributed some ideas on immigration reform. And he has given interviews today, making clear that he will take a very tough line on the border, but specifically, Donald Trump says that he will be charged with conducting mass deportations. And this was really one of the contentious parts of the Trumpian agenda. But Tom Homan today has made clear that he is willing to conduct these deportations, and he's appealed to Democratic states and Democratic cities to cooperate with the new Trump administration to help them conduct these deportations. And he says that if they don't, they'll just ramp up the number of agents they need to go about and do this. So the example he used this morning was New York City. So there have been a lot of migrants coming into New York City in the last couple of years. The New York Times was reporting just over the weekend that it was 200,000 since 2022, and that so much money has been spent on shelters. So this in some part explains why Trump was able to pick up so much support in some of these Democratic strongholds that were experiencing influxes in immigration. So Tom Homan today is saying that they will act with or without the support of these Democratic states and cities. Obviously, he would prefer their support, but he is going to take a tough approach.
National Security Advisor is another crucial position in the government, Joe, and Donald Trump has appointed Mike Waltz, who's himself a former soldier. He's a bit of a China hawk. What does that mean for the United States' new stance on China, do you think?
Well, Claire, this is a very important position, National Security Advisor, and it's also a role that doesn't require Senate approval. Mike Waltz is, by background, someone with arguably an aggressive disposition when it comes to questions of national defense. He is the first Green Beret to serve in Congress. He is also a former White House and Pentagon policy advisor. He had multiple tours in Afghanistan. He served in the Middle East and in Africa. He won 4 Bronze Stars. So I think, given his credentials, this is the sort of person that Donald Trump will be attracted to.
Coming up, meeting the Ice Maiden in Donald Trump's White House. Remember how Trump sacked 4 White House chiefs of staff in Term 1? Well, for Term 2, he's appointed a rusted-on loyalist, Susie Wiles, who steered his re-election campaign. She'll be the first woman in the job.
Apparently, she's one of the few people who's able to say no to Donald Trump. That's a positive quality to have in a chief of staff, Claire. But again, she's seen as someone who is loyal to him.
Susie likes to stay sort of in the back, let me tell you. The Ice Maiden, we call her the Ice
Maiden. We saw in the weeks leading up to the November 5 election, one of his former chief of staffs, John Kelly, gave very damning interviews in which he discussed Donald Trump's fascist tendencies, at least according to John Kelly.
He's certainly an authoritarian, admires people who are dictators. He has said that. So he certainly falls into the general definition of fascist, for sure.
So Donald Trump has confidence that Susie Wiles is a completely different, more trustworthy appointment as Chief of Staff, someone that he views will never engage in that sort of rhetoric or discussion about him.
And finally, Joe, Robert F. Kennedy is somebody who ran for president himself, didn't get many votes. But on the podium, while accepting victory, Donald Trump suggested that he would be put in charge of health. He didn't really outline exactly what that was going to mean.
Bobby, stay away from the liquid gold. Other than that, go have a good time, Bobby.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is, of course, an anti-vaxxer. He's also opposed to fluoridation of the water.
I think fluoride is a poison. My son was saying that if a fluoride truck crashes on the highway, they have to clear the highway for miles around.
Robert Kennedy doesn't have much experience with government. I spoke to Mike Green last week. So Mike Green worked for the Bush White House. He worked on campaigns for Mitt Romney. And he was pretty frank in his assessment of Robert Kennedy, said that he would be someone that was granted access to the Oval Office, but someone at the end of the day with very little experience about how government works. So I think Donald Trump will be cognizant of that. He'll need to be aware of the political capital and currency that Robert Kennedy brings to him after dropping out of the race and endorsing Trump. But he'll also need to be aware of the limitations of Robert Kennedy. And also, he would be aware of some of the concerns over Robert Kennedy's positions in relation to vaccines. There is a lot of discussion in the American media over the last few days about Robert Kennedy's position on vaccines and the concern that is generating. So I think this is a delicate balancing act for Donald Trump to negotiate.
Joe Kelly is the Australian's National Affairs Editor. He's in Washington, DC. Australia has a big decision to make about its own appointment to the court of Donald Trump. Ambassador Kevin Rudd, who's previously expressed his disdain for the president-elect. For now, Anthony Albanese's standing by Rudd. You can follow the latest on that unfolding story right now at theaustralian.com.au.